And trans children can very much treat gender dysphoria with that treatment. So do not deny that from them.
And then I questioned whether or not COVID played a role because teens, they were spending more and more time in their rooms and on social media.
You got a nasty case of the trans from COVID, that long-lasting COVID slipped right into being trans. Is that what you're really arguing, lady?
Carla said she initially struggled to grapple with the influx of children and young adults coming into her office with gender confusion.
It was anxiety, depression, and gender confusion. It was if it was overnight. I was so curious about it, and I was so confused as to why the symptoms with my clients was changing so quickly, so rapidly.
Because that's what those children need. They need support if they are expressing who they are. Hello, hello, and thank you for tuning in. It's Brandi's World. Today, we are continuing our look into the podcast brought to us by the Christian Post, titled Generation Indoctrination, the Transgender Battle. Episode 2, Inside the Dark History, the disturbing, diabolical roots of the movement. Okay, the movement is the transgender movement, is what they're talking about, y'all. And if you don't know me by now, if you're just tuning in, my name is Brandi Beckett. I am a 50-something transgender activist and an awesome woman. And I am taking a look at a podcast that is it's supposed to be a docu-series, right? And it's brought to us by the Christian Post and hosted by Brandon Showalter. And in case you're unaware, the movement, at least for me as a transgender activist, I have two goals. I am demanding, I am shouting for, and I will not stop until I see two things happen. The movement is I want equality and normality. Yes, that's it. I want equality legally and socially. I want normality legally and socially in this country, United States. And it'd be pretty cool if it spread further out. So let's see what they have to say about this movement of equality and normality.
One of the uncomfortable realities that must be contended with to properly understand our current dynamic is the fact that many people peddling transgender ideology are actually well-meaning. Dr. Abigail Favale explains.
I think most people who kind of adopt this framework, are coming from a place of goodwill. Like they honestly just want to help people. They want to do the right thing. They want to be on the side of social justice. They don't want to replicate mistakes of the past when we've ostracized certain groups of people.
Yes, I make those exact points. My entire life, I saw equality above my personal preferences even. Have you ever seen the cucumber grape experiment they did with the chimpanzee? And if they're doing the activity and they get rewarded with the cucumber, they're like, cool, got a little treat, got a cucumber. And you see the neighbor chimp gets cucumber, yay, cool. We both got cucumbers, awesome. We did the little thing they wanted us to and we got a reward. They do the little activity and they get the reward. And the neighbor chimp gets the grape reward for doing the same activity. And both chimps know the grape's sweeter than the cucumber. The cucumber's okay, but a grape, now that's a treat. Chimpanzee who got the cucumber looks at the one who got the grape and goes, wait a minute, that's not fair. I demand the grape, right? The experiment gets a little more complicated, but for this understanding, that's all we need to understand. But yes, and for me, I've been like that my whole life. I was like, it should be fair. My maternal grandmother used to take me all these cool places and have me over all the time and bake cookies for me and just really spoiled me. When I got about 19 or 20, maybe a little bit younger, I was told stories, and I started to realize, because I didn't realize when I was being treated so nicely, I didn't look around me going, well, is everyone getting treated so nicely too? Because grandma's pretty kick-ass. And I hear these stories that she would pick me up and not my brothers, and take me places and spend time with me and take me to dinners and have me over for weekends and take me to the mountains and all of these things, and not take my brothers. And when I found out that that was the case, that she just didn't want to treat them as equally or fairly as me, I was like, that's not cool. And I literally did not talk to my grandmother for like 10 years. For like a good 10 years, just because I felt she was not being fair. And there was no reason for her not to be fair to all of us. And I was the one that was getting the good end of the treatment. And so, yeah, I understand that. I want to help out people, because fairness is fairness, right? Like, I'm an American citizen. We don't have those clauses in our Constitution. In fact, our amendments, we try to clarify that we're all American citizens should be treated with fair and equal justice.
But then they'll just there's like scripts out there about gender, right? They get some in college classrooms, they get some in HR compliance trainings, they get some
scripts about gender. Okay, I can see, sure, scripts about gender, because you can script out anything. You can describe it, right? So there's many different descriptions of gender, how we see it in our Westernly influenced culture here in the United States, the culture that we have designed and shaped and cultivated, this concept of gender, the concept of gender identity, the concept of gender expression. And those things mold and change as cultures mold and change. But I think what they're talking about is people hear a few people describe gender in a certain harsh way, and they try to read that as a script, I guess. Gender is how you identify yourself. And we live in a society that put gender into a binary as a concept. Box A or box B. That's the only choices we have when we legally put a new human into our culture. We got this new little persons in our society now, and we have box A or box B for both sex and gender, because in that little paper they're not really discriminating the two, the sex and gender. But those are two separate concepts as well. See how it gets a little complicated? And this person's making it a little general and saying there's scripts for gender. There's not even good scripts for describing our concept of what is sexual expression and what is sexual identity. There is a variance there, and there's no argument that there's a variance among the chromosomes of sex. There is a variant among what we identify as genders. Just because our culture here in the United States, Canada, across many places in Europe have a binary system of gender, that doesn't mean it goes across to the species. If you think gender applies to the species level at your description, your culture, and all the other cultures just got it wrong, there are thousands of other cultures of humans alive on this planet right now who have a different concept in this binary system of gender. Everyone's gender identity fits on a spectrum, right? Not everyone's fits into a binary box system. So when you describe, just like not everyone's going to fit into XX or XY, that's not describing all the humans, is it? Neither is binary gender. So there can be 1,000 different scripts, because gender is a cultural construct. So it's not written in stone and never to be changed. It's a construct.
On Twitter and TikTok, and then they'll just kind of speak the script without realizing that there are different scripts that don't really harmonize easily.
So apparently there's these scripts. I'm not aware of too many scripts. We didn't teach scripts. In my college classes, we didn't learn scripts. We learned how to examine the concepts. They would say, these are the problems. Here's how they were trying to answer. Here's the thinking tools they were using. What do you all think? Let's use our thinking tools to figure out the concepts and why they're using concept X over concept Y.
So I think one of the big problems right now where we are in the US is that the legal system for the past 20 years has really successfully driven a wall between adolescents and their parents. That's already the case.
When has there not been a wall between the parents and the adolescents in that culture paradigm shift? When cultures and paradigms shift, where it's going to start. The shift is going to start with the people in their 40s and 50s. Not often. It's going to start with the young people. And when they shift, their thinking tools, use better thinking tools, have new information, start to look at gender concepts in a new light and say, wait, why aren't we treating all the people equally? Why aren't we believing people when they say this is my gender and this is how I'm expressing it?
Before you get to the question of gender identity and questions about your body and identity issues, that we have had for several decades the growth of adolescent medicine and the idea in the law that certain, quote, sensitive issues are off limits for parents to know about, to guide their kids in terms of, to be involved in the treatment of their children.
And on the middle.
Oh my goodness. Imagine what it could be like if you're a child and you discover that you are not a cis person. You don't agree with that assignment on your birth certificate. You don't agree that binary concept of box A or box B fits you. Maybe you fit nicely in the other box. Maybe you discover, oh my goodness, I'm assigned box A, but I fit so nicely in society's box B of gender. I want to express that. When I look on the inside, I see box B. I would like to express that. And when you turn to your support system, the parents, and they're not going to allow you to express that, they're going to make sure that you only express box A, which is hard for you to connect with because you don't see it on the inside. Every time you look on the inside of you don't see those attributes that are filling up box A that you're supposed to just meld into. And if you're not allowed to do that at home, it sucks. It really sucks not to be able to express who you are. And children should have a trusted place at school. Would you not agree? Not all children are safe at home. You're a child and you don't feel safe at your home. Shouldn't you have the luxury, the privilege, the right? Shouldn't it be the right thing for you to be able to express at school that you don't feel safe and you want to express who you are? They should be able to say, I don't want to be abused at school. I want to be able to be me at school and not abused. And if they can't tell their teachers or counselors that I'm afraid, I want to express myself here, but I'm afraid if I express myself at home, I'll be in physical or psychological harm. What should those counselors and teachers and school administrators do?
Health treatment side of things, a plethora of challenges continue to emerge and rage. Carla said she initially struggled to grapple with the influx of children and young adults coming into her office with gender confusion, something other providers are certainly facing.
I was so curious about it, and I was so confused as to why the symptoms with my clients was changing so quickly, so rapidly. I went from seeing young teenagers, 12 to 15, who typically presented with symptoms of anxiety and depression, to suddenly It was anxiety, depression, and gender confusion. It was if it was overnight, and I was
children who don't fit neatly into our binary box A or box B system are expressing that. Suddenly they exist? How about you were shoving children into boxes that they didn't really fit into? And now they're saying, let us out of these damn boxes. Just because you assign it to us doesn't mean it's us. Because that's what those children need. They need support if they are expressing who they are. They're not out to harm you, lady.
Totally unprepared. And I couldn't figure out why this is happening and how I could best serve them. And then I questioned whether or not COVID played a role because teens, they were spending more and more time in their rooms and on social media.
Lady, blame it on, maybe it's COVID giving these children transness. This is what she's arguing right now. You got a nasty case of the trans from COVID, that long-lasting COVID slipped right into being trans. Is that what you're really arguing, lady? Seriously? Oh, goodness. I think we have to hear that again. Let's hear that again, because did she really say that?
It was if it was overnight, and I was totally unprepared. And I couldn't figure out why this is happening and how I could best serve them. And then I questioned whether or not COVID played a role because teens, they were spending more and more time in their rooms and on social media.
They got the trans from the COVID. That's what she's trying to imply. Wow. Wow.
Her exploration into the issue and the recent history led her to some insightful conclusions. Among these takeaways, young people today seem to have a penchant for labels, something that could be perpetuating the transgender movement's spread.
I found that this generation has a rush to label and or diagnose, and we're doing it to kids younger and younger. More and more, it's becoming the norm that we construe normal feelings and label it as an illness. And
we construe normal feelings and label it as an illness? I don't understand where's she slipping illness in? What the hell is she talking about? Illness?
A normality or a disorder. And people are calling kids as young as like 11 pansexual, bi, or probably gay before the child themselves even knows.
Why is she talking about sexual identities? I thought we were talking about gender identities. Now I'm starting to question her authority on the subject altogether, because if the little interview is about transgender, why is she talking about a different issue? That's a completely different issue. We can have those talks about sexual orientations and sexual identities, but that is not gender identities and gender expressions. Let's get back to our... I don't know if she's calling herself an expert. I don't know what she's calling herself. Let's get back to her.
This generation has had a huge push in acknowledging and understanding mental health concerns. And the kids grew up knowing the language. We call it the therapy language game, meaning they know something's wrong with them. They just need to diagnose it. And
these damn kids are learning too much of a vocabulary, and I'm not going to stand for it. They understand words that I wasn't taught, and therefore it's flim-flam. They're learning flim-flam, and they don't stay off my grass. Gosh darn it, I'm gonna turn a hose on these darn kids and their newfangled language that I don't understand. It's all bibbly-blabble talk to me. These kids with their sexual identities, they're seeing it on the YouTubes and the TikTokies and all of their evil bad ideas, because they're not my ideas. Okay, I'm not even upset with this lady anymore. She's getting funny.
with the help of friends and with school and with social media, self-diagnosis is all too common. I remember in particular hearing a conversation of a middle schooler who told her friend that she feels like she might be a boy.
Self-diagnosis of an identity. Yes, that's the only way to get to an identity, right? Yes. And when you look to the outsiders, the children are looking to describe how they are feeling on the inside. It's like, who did you turn to, lady, to realize you were right-handed or left-handed? Did you go to a handed expert, or did you look inside yourself to go, oh, I am right-handed, oh, I am left-handed? Do you think a child should go outside of themselves to determine which handedness they are? And if you think it's perfectly okay for a child to look within themselves to discover which handedness they are, why do you argue with the concept of them looking within themselves to discover what their gender identity is? Both within, both not described by the outside, only discovered from within. You can force the person, the child, the whoever, to express a handedness or a gender identity that they are not. You can force people to do that, and people can express what they are not. They can attempt to, but wouldn't you want them to express who they are? Wouldn't you want them to express their handedness, their gender identity? That's all I'm asking. Allow them to express who they are. Do not determine who they are and force them to express what you think they should be. Because that's not the way that you discover your identity. It doesn't work that way. Allow them to express.
The friend got all excited and she goes, oh, now you get to pick your new boy name. And that's typical.
So what does all of this mean? And where are we headed next? Despite these facts, as well as the horrors and rampant confusion coloring the discussion, Mary Hassan believes that people are snapping out of the stupor that has empowered so much of the contentiousness.
This movement has really stepped forward, pushing forward those ideas. And I think the good...
This movement, you notice they're always vague when they say this movement. Since they're being so vague, we'll slip in my interpretation of the trans movement, or my version of what the trans movement is. The trans movement is a movement towards equality and normality within society. Period on that sentence. So, is that scary? Equality, normality? I don't think it's asking for too much. I don't think it's a ridiculous movement. I think it's perfectly logical, reasonable, and just.
The thing about it is that people are waking up. I think people are starting to look at this and say, wait a minute. Of course I can trust my senses. If I'm looking at this person and I know they're a female and they have the body of a female, it doesn't matter what they're...
I'm expressing, but what you're trying to do is set up where you can easily have a straw person argument where you insert, you're going to slide in, I'm predicting this is going to happen, you go to slide in the concept, and this is the image. If I see this image, therefore the outside image is what you're projecting on the inside, and that should be judged by the outside, right? That's what they want to do. They want to judge. They want to take down targets that are easily othered. So you set up a target that's easily othered, and then you push the other to the margin. That's what is going to be happening here. I'm predicting. I don't know. I don't listen ahead on these shows. I'm experiencing these at the same time as y'all. And but I have heard these arguments numerous times, and I'm pretty sure that she's going to try to set up a good way to other and generalize trans people and push. So let's hear what happens.
Self-perception is. It doesn't matter how they're feeling. There's a reality here that I should not be forced to deny in order to make that person feel better. And certainly as a movement, we don't want the idea foisted on our kids that they should disregard that tangible reality in front of them, the goodness of their body, and believe something that's just a lie, a promise that never delivers.
Do you use that concept across all appearances of humans? Do you tell your children, do you see that person with glasses? They're a big lie. It's a big lie. That's not the way their eyeballs were created. That's a big lie. Do you see those braces? That's a big lie. Do you see that woman over there with those breast augmentations? That's a big lie. Don't pay attention to that. I don't know what you're getting at, lady. You're trying to judge people by their expression, their outward appearance, and not everyone has the fortune or the privilege to actually express anything close to how they feel on the inside. Why are you going to judge that book by that cover? Don't you want to get to know that book, that person? Or you just want to see book covers and judge and teach your children how to judge book covers? Because that sounds like what you're trying to do. You're trying to get children to judge people by their cover. I was taught as a child, don't judge a person by their cover. Weren't you taught that as well? Come on.
That they can somehow feel a certain way and make that override reality and become someone different, that they can change reality to match their feelings. So
you can become someone you want to be, and that is bad. I could have sworn when I was a child, we used to have this propaganda, the whole campaign of the parents sitting the child on the knee and going, when you grow up, you can be whoever you want to be because this is United States of America. If you want to be president, you can be president. If you want to be the best athlete you can be, it's opportunity there for you. You can be the smartest person. You can go to the schools you want to. You can do whatever you want because you're an American and we have those opportunities to do whatever you want here in America. Oh wait, what was this lady saying again? She was saying that's not a good thing. You shouldn't be able to express yourself. Oof, goodness.
As I said, the good thing is that I think a lot of people are realizing this has gone not just too far, but this is so far off base that they really can't support it anymore. And that's made them step back and say,
the it. What is the it she's talking about? The it is existence. Remember that. When she's saying the it, she's saying trans people exist. Because that's the goal. The goal is the trans people can exist, express themselves, and have equality and normality within our society. So she's saying if it happens, the movement happens, trans people will be existing. Trans people will be expressing who they are. Trans people will be existing in our society with normality and with equality. That is the it. Unless she has some other it, she best describe and elaborate on what the it is she is talking about. Because the it is the movement, and the movement is equality.
what is this about? What's going on here?
And while the past and present feel dangerous and confusing, Dr. Abigail Favale is also among those who believe that a course correction could be upon us.
One point of optimism, I think, that's happening is that we are seeing course corrections on the medicalization of gender dysphoric young people happen in Europe. So that's happening in Sweden. Sweden this year changed their protocol for dealing with young people with gender dysphoria and have almost entirely stopped hormone therapy and medical interventions and are prioritizing psychotherapy. And that's really huge. It's been frustrating to me that the American media doesn't seem to realize that how much that matters. I mean, Sweden has been a pioneer in developing many of these medical pathways. And so they're kind of ahead of us, you know, and what they're seeing, you know, and they came to this decision by reviewing the scientific evidence and realizing there simply is not robust data to show that the benefits outweigh the risks. And
Listen carefully to what they were saying. If I understand what she was saying correctly, is Sweden, and I haven't looked into this, I'm not sure, and maybe true, I don't know how much of it is, but we can take on face value what she said. Sweden is shifting from hormone replacement therapy in children to more of a social integration therapy. Okay, that is great. That is my argument. My argument is children should not be doing hormone replacement therapy. Hormone blockers are a good thing for a trans child to stop or slow down an unwanted puberty hormone rush that they don't need or want to experience in their body. So that's one thing. That's not what the Sweden talk. That's not what even she was talking about. She wasn't talking about specifically blockers, but all she has to do is mention hormones, and people automatically think children hormones blockers. Blockers bad because I was told they're bad. Blockers in hormones for children are not just for trans children, they are also for cis children. Children who are going to experience an onset of puberty at an age that they are not mentally or physically or socially ready to experience that onset of puberty. Doctors can, with the family, introduce a hormone blocker to slow down or stop that onset of puberty until a time in that child's life when they're ready to experience that. That is a very important part of the argument, because I am also against giving hormone replacement therapy to young children. I am not against children receiving hormone blockers to stop or slow down an onset of an unwanted hormone rush that we call puberty. Huge difference. And I think there's going to be a little equation there. Let's hear what else she has to say.
We're seeing similar things happen in Finland, France, the UK. I'm optimistic about that if America pays attention to it, right? Which right now it's not. Right now, America and Canada are both kind of just barreling down the same road.
As these changes progress, experts like Dr. Van Mol are encouraging parents to step up to the plate and courageously address the chaos, and to realize there's hope.
They need to follow the courage of their own convictions and protect their kids. Realize that schools, the education system, has become a primary mode of transmission of this gender ideology. You need to know what your kids are watching.
Did that guy just say that the primary way that children are learning about transgender issues and transgender experiences are through school? Where else do you want them to learn social things about? Isn't that part of the reason we send them to school? They get to start to socialize and integrate into society, and it teaches them how to be a citizen by the time we get them through our systems. We should be like, now you're ready to go face society like the rest of the voters and and adults. Isn't that part of it? Shouldn't they understand the society they're about to enter and accept every citizen as part of America and in the fold, and not have this group isolation and marginalization based on identity? Yeah, it's a good thing that children are learning about transgender and LGBTQIA issues. Altogether, it's good.
On TV, you need to know what's going on in their schools and be encouraged. The other side, of course, is going to want to say, oh, this is all the radical right. And that's ridiculous. This is a hands across the aisle situation. The organizations that I'm in and involved with and the groups that we cooperate with, this is fully a hands across the aisle situation. It is people of all political stripes, of all spiritual stripes, even of all sexual identifications. We have in the United States a group of trans-identified adults who are fully on board with us on this, that gender-affirming therapy shouldn't be anywhere near a minor. They do not have the wherewithal to.
Depends on what therapy you're talking about. You're generalizing all therapy. Sweden talked about it. Socialization therapy. That's what a child, a prepubescent child should be receiving to ease that gender dysphoria is the social acceptance, the social therapy of accepting that child for expressing who they are. That is good. And that is what you on your podcast were saying that Sweden is doing. Hormone replacement therapy, not good for kids. Agreed. Surgeries, not good for kids. Agreed. Social support and social understanding and social acceptance is therapy and does work. And trans children can very much treat gender dysphoria with that treatment. So do not deny that from them.
Approach the subject. So there's support out there, be encouraged, but you've got to be the ones looking after your kids, and for that matter, helping your neighbor with theirs, and there is hope.
In light of all the cultural forces, philosophical trends, and historical figures like John Money have wrought in recent decades, is there any hope that the tide can be turned? Can this sinister ideology be contested in any...
Sinister ideology that we exist? Is that sinister? That we express who we are? Is that sinister?
meaningful way? What can be done to protect children and other vulnerable people? Forces, philosophical...
There's support out there. Be encouraged, but you've got to be the ones looking after your kids, and for that matter, helping your neighbor with theirs, and there is hope.
In light of all the cultural forces, philosophical trends, and historical figures like John Money have wrought in recent decades, is there any hope that the tide can be turned? Can this sinister ideology be contested in any meaningful way?
Sinister ideology? What he's talking about in ideology, the ideology that I exist, that trans people exist, that we express ourselves, that we exist and express ourselves within society, that we express and exist within the society you feel you should mold and shape? Or do you think that it's more reasonable and logical that we exist in a society that is of the people and by the people, and if we are the people, and is also include us? So the marginalization and pushing us out, that the trans is a zombie virus getting into society, and as you cleverly like to say, metastasizing our society, is completely hateful and wrong, and not in a good nature if you care about other humans. Because guess what? Trans people are humans. In fact, here in the United States, we're also American citizens, just like you. And as we should easily agree upon, United States of America is made of the people, by the people, and for the people. So it includes all of the people. Unless you have an argument with the 14th Amendment, it still includes all of the people. And our argument is trans people are among all of the people.
What can be done to protect children and other vulnerable people? And what policies and regulations might prevent further harm? Next time on Generation Indoctrination, we will engage lawmakers, public policy experts, and others on the front lines addressing these challenges from a legal standpoint. Stay tuned.
Ooh, goodness, stay tuned. So they're going to turn this into where the lawmakers are, and this is going to be fun, because this podcast was recorded in 2022. So they're just getting ramped up. In 2022, there's a lot of trans bills floating around, ready to bash onto trans people. This is before it started to explode. In 2023, there's more than 500 bills in these United States. It is frightening, people. So yeah, they're going to find some law people who do not like trans people. That is not going to be hard. I guarantee you can do that. I'm going to wrap up this episode for now, and tune in next time when we are going to listen to Brandon Showalter interview some lawmakers about trans people. This is going to be fun. Hope you join me then. So until then, love yourself, but more importantly, like yourself, and treat people the way they want to be treated. Bye-bye for now.